Welcome to the second part of this triptych of video focused on revelations about the various livestream sequences we witnessed within Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. In the first video, we covered the places that were hidden within Tifa's livestream sequence in Gongaga, and in this one, we'll focus on the livestream sequence which appears at the end of the game, and on the various places we can identify with a little bit of obstinacy. Just like the previous video, this one will be spoiler free, so if you only played Remake and Rebirth, you can watch it without any risk. The point there is just to uncover some mysteries hidden within the game. So, back to context. At the end of the game, after we are done beating Sephiroth with Cloud and Aerith, we witness various cutscenes depicting different moments, and one of those cutscenes brings us back to the live stream. Indeed, we witness a scene where the two weapons we met earlier in the game are crossing a hill and swimming to a place surrounded by black whispers. It's when we get a view from above that we get to understand they are seemingly back into the livestream place we visited earlier, since we can notice pretty quickly some recognizable places like Tifa's house or the Mount Nibble bridge. As the weapons are getting surrounded by black whispers, their mega materia suddenly begin to glow, and their intense light eventually chase the whispers away, allowing them to swim back to the surface, leaving the place shrouded in black whispers again. That's about it for the ending livestream sequence. It's a very short sequence, blurred by black whispers, and we can hardly make sense of what is shown, so it was very tedious to make sense of things at first, but after some tweaks and use of that powerful mega materia light, it was eventually possible to allow some places to come into light, behind layers and layers of that peculiar livestream blur. So now, time to see what we can find in this scene. First off, we can of course acknowledge the main places we saw in the first livestream sequence, especially when they appear very obviously, like for example Tifa's house, recognizable thanks to those tubes on the roof. We can also notice pretty easily the Nibble bridge, which is hardly missable, and is probably the place most players identified the most easily when they first saw that scene. Those two places are the places which can be easily noticed. After that, we reach the places which need some tweaking and photo manipulation to make sense of, but were also identified within Tifa's livestream sequence. The water tower is the first of those. Even though this one was kinda hard to notice at first, it was revealed thanks to the wave of light chasing our dearest Dementors, and it was right where we could guess it would be, considering its position within Tifa's livestream. For the other places we didn't get to visit, we can localize the trees, right there, the Stargazer Heights apartments, not far from the water tower, the town portal, here, and while it's blurry and a mess to make because it's leaning, we can also see Seventh Heaven, always at the same place, behind Tifa's house. The only place that we can hardly identify despite being acknowledged in the previous sequence is the Mount Nibble reactor, but truth is, even this one can be guessed through that wave of light, when we get to spot a massive tube-like shape hidden underneath Stargazer Heights, at the same place it was meant to be in the previous sequence. Now, let's get to the interesting part, aka the places we couldn't see in Tifa's livestream sequence. To be honest, that affirmation is no longer true, because one of these places also appears in Gongaga. But because I first identified it while studying this scene, I wanted to reveal it in regard to that scene first. This video will focus on two places in particular, those being the most visible, considering that just like with Tifa's livestream, a lot of places and shape appearing in that scene are complicated to make sense of. Among those places that can be seen but hardly identified, we can notice two obvious ones. First one being that antenna beneath the entrance rock, and then that structure that appears near the water tower when the light comes. While we don't have a lot of possibilities to identify the antenna, after various tweaks and trials, I managed to understand some sort of shape for the structure beneath the water tower, without any chance to identify it. It looks like some kind of portal and guardrail, which is really not saying much for Final Fantasy VII. A friend of mine suggested it could be the guardrail of Sector 7 train station, where Tifa and Cloud met again in Midgar. While I think this could work and would also make a lot of sense, the picture is still too blurry for us to completely confirm that possibility. The last place I'd like to mention that can be seen but hardly identified appears right where I think I saw a sort of watery place within Tifa's livestream sequence. And it looks like an intriguing shape made of path and platform. As I said in the previous video, I have a peculiar idea about that place, but so far, while some shapes fit, some might not, so I won't affirm anything for now. Just like the guardrail, truth is I also identified this place fairly recently, and I didn't have the time to delve deeper, so if I or anyone else managed to identify those, I'll be sure to share the knowledge through my social media or this channel. And I'm counting on anyone who identifies those to also do the same, because that could be quite an interesting finding. Now, for the two places that really matter because of how precise I eventually managed to make them out to be after a few dozen replays of chapter 14, which is actually a pretty good chapter, you just need to play it more than once. One has been identified, while I have theories for the second one. For the circular shape, I probably roamed both games far too much and bothered my friends with that even more, before I eventually got the hint and began to sort the place that would make sense. This is how I can confirm that this round shape is in fact the top of the Sector 7 pillar, and the towering shape beside is also a part of said pillar. Here are the parallels for visual understanding, both fit perfectly. For the circular shape, we can recognize the various shapes composing the plate of the pillar, the ultimate evidence to me being the hole we can see in the livestream version of the plate. Hole that fits the hole that will appear after Rude pushes the button that will disengage the pillar in chapter 12 of Remake. Now, if you watched the first video about Tifa's Gongaga livestream sequence, you probably understood the place underneath 7th Heaven there is also the pillar of Sector 7. But for a long time, I wasn't exactly sure, because the shape we could identify in that sequence didn't fit, until I eventually stumbled on one of the many pillar pictures I have now collected and understood what it was. Guess it was just a matter of distance and details in the end. Now for the second place. It's a very tricky one, because it appears very neatly, and while it is a parallel with another place that could completely make sense within the livestream, it's not perfectly the same either, so I thought of three possibilities. First idea would be that the model isn't fully charged, because there is no telling if the devs expected us to find those places, so that could explain why some part looks interrupted. Honestly, it's unlikely, but still worth being mentioned. Second possibility would be it's a version of the model we don't know, cause the place I'm thinking of technically burned, so it could be its altered version. And, of course, third possibility would be it's simply not the place I've been thinking of. Anyway, end of the tease. I've been thinking of Cloud's house. Why Cloud's house? Simply because those wooden shapes fit perfectly with the side view of his house. And this is the kind of architecture we can see in Nibelheim. So my idea as to why the planks would be interrupted would be that it could be a burned version of the house. And for the front shape, those could be debris or just other elements. We also have to take into account some places are completely turned around, so some things might not make sense until we see the whole place. To be completely honest, I'm pretty pragmatic and I like clear answers, so I'm not very convinced by this theory so far. I think it might be a bit of a stretch, and it's mostly guided by the fact I would love to identify Cloud's house within this sequence, because we know it's a place of utmost importance for Cloud, so it's nothing more than a wishful thinking on my part, for now. Amongst other possibilities, I'm now also looking toward Dr. Seran's clinic in Corel, or some other place in various areas, but nothing worth mentioning here for now. And with this, the iceberg of the livestream in Rebirth is now complete. Looks like the livestream goes way deeper and further one might have guessed. Just like with the first video, you are more than welcome to comment your ideas or anything you can deem worthy of interest, and all the useful links will appear in the description. Now I'm sending you to the final video that contains what's possibly the biggest secret hidden within those livestream sequences.